was a school with a class of students no teacher had been able to handle. 2 or 3 teachers had been run off from the school in 1 year by the unruly students. A young man just out of college heard about the class and he applied to the school. The principal asked the young man, "Do you know what you're asking for? No one has been able to handle these students. You are just asking for a terrible beating." The next morning, the young man stood before the class. He said to the class, "Young people, I came here today to conduct school, but I realize I can't do it by myself. I must have your help." One big boy they called Big Tom in the back of the room whispered to his buddies, "I'll not need any help. I can lick that little bird all by myself." The young teacher told the class that if they were to have school, there would have to be some rules to go by. But he also added that he would allow the students to make up the rules, that he would list them on the blackboard. This was certainly different, the students thought. One young man suggested, "No stealing." Another one shouted, "Be on time for class." Pretty soon they had 10 rules listed on the board. The teacher had then asked the class what the punishment should be for breaking these rules. "Rules are no good unless they are enforced," he said. So one in the class suggested that if the rules were broken, they should receive 10 licks with a rod across their back with their coat off. The teacher thought that was a pretty harsh punishment, so he asked the class if they would stand by this punishment. The class agreed. Everything went pretty good for 2 or 3 days. The kids enjoyed playing outside, playing tag, playing catch, and the teacher thought to himself, everything's going as planned. Then Big Tom came in one day very upset. Tom exclaimed that somebody had to pay. Somebody stole his lunch, and somebody had to be punished. After talking with the students, they came to the conclusion that Timmy had stolen Big Tom's lunch. Someone had seen little Timmy with Big Tom's lunch. The teacher called little Timmy up to the front of the room. Little Timmy admitted he had taken Big Tom's lunch. So the teacher asked him, "Do you know the punishment?" Little Timmy nodded that he did. "You must remove your coat then." The little fellow had come with a great big coat on. Little Timmy said to the teacher, "I am guilty. I am willing to take my punishment, but please don't make me take off my coat." The teacher reminded little Timmy of the rules and punishments and again told him he must remove his coat and take his punishment like a man. The little fellow started to unbutton that old coat. As he did so, the teacher saw that he did not have a shirt on underneath that coat. And even worse, he saw a frail and a bony frame hidden beneath that coat. The teacher asked little Timmy why he had come to school without a shirt on. Little Timmy replied, "My dad's dead. My mother's very poor. I don't have but one shirt and my mother's washing it today. I wore Big Brother's coat so to keep warm." That young teacher stood and looked at that frail back, the ribs sticking out, the spine protruding against the skin. He wondered how he could lay a rod on that little back, and even without a shirt on. Still, he knew he must enforce the punishment or the children would not obey the rules. So he drew back to strike little Timmy. Just then, Big Tom stood up and came down the aisle. He asked, "Is there anything that says that I can't take little Tim's whippings for him?" The teacher thought about it for a second and then agreed. With that, Big Tom stomped over and stood over little Timmy at the desk. Hesitating, the teacher began to lay the rod on the big back. But for some strange reason, after only 5 licks, that old rod just broke in half. The young teacher buried his face in his hands and began to sob. He heard a commotion and looked up, not to find even one dry eye in the room. Little Timmy had turned and grabbed Big Tom around the neck, apologizing to him for stealing his lunch, begging for his forgiveness. Little Timmy left school that day a different person. He showed more compassion. He was more loving. And no matter what he did the rest of his life, he always remembered the time that Big Tom took his whipping.